And just before we start, as people are making their way back, I do have a little bit of research that I'm conducting, and I would like to get some input from you. You can just yell out your answers. You don't have to go to the microphones. I want to ask you, and I see that there are some well-known gerontologist researchers in the audience, and I would like to know from you the age-old question: why do women live longer than men? So, from the back, why? Okay. Estrogen, okay. Why else? Women are smarter. Women multitask well. Why else? Sorry? They're great networkers.
Boys are more fragile than girls.
One more time, sir. Why do women live longer than men? The gentleman had a good answer. Any other gentlemen want to try to answer the question?
Boys are more fragile than girls.
Thank you. I do want to give an answer about the research, and all your answers are very helpful. I asked our resident council at Tabor Village why women live longer than men, and we had similar answers to yours, and some very intuitive answers from some of the gentlemen that are octogenarians. But the chair of the resident council, Vi, she stood up from her chair and she said, "I'll tell you why, Mr. Levitt, women live longer than men. Because we deserve to." So our next session is mixed tenure, special interests, ethno-cultural, and campus of care projects. And how we're going to do this is each presenter is going to talk about their unique projects, and then we'll have a chance for you to ask them some questions. We have a very diverse group. So first is, and I do have a personal connection with the three of them, which I won't mention. Lori Baxter is president on the board of trustees of PAL, the Performing Arts Lodge in Vancouver. Teena Love is a general manager from Amenida Seniors Community, and Ron Pike is the executive director from Elim Village. So we'll first hear from Lori. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting the Performing Arts Lodge, or PAL, as we like to refer to it, to present to you today. And hopefully I know how to make this change. There you go. PAL is an intentional community for seniors 55 and plus and disabled who have spent their lives working in the performing arts. And our mission, which I'm not all that fond of, but I'm going to read it anyway, is no person in the professional performing arts community will live in isolation, want, or fear. And why I don't like that mission statement is because it comes from a negative. And that is so not what our building is. Our building is very much about community. I hadn't heard about cohousing before I came here today, but we have an awful lot of components of cohousing within our building without being a cohousing unit. So there are just two of our residents in one of our apartments. We define performing arts as what you would probably normally think of: actors, musicians, dancers, but we also talk about designers, directors, teamster drivers in the film industry, administrators, etc. So a very wide berth of who is in the performing arts. Why did we build PAL? Why is PAL needed? Well, obviously, we provide, it's a rental assistance building. It is designed to provide affordable housing for our residents. And that is because in our industry, we have an awful lot of seniors who do not have sufficient income. According to Stats Canada, the average Canadian senior has an income of $30,000. The average senior in the professional performing arts is $10,000. So we're a third of the national average. There are limited housing options, obviously, for someone whose average income is $10,000. And we want to ensure that our seniors are in a safe, secure, and supportive environment. So this is PAL. We are 111 unit residents with 99 one-bedroom rental apartments and 12 two-bedroom life leases. That one's not working? Thank you. What do I do? Just press? There we go. So this is the PAL portion of the building. It occupies the first 8 floors of a 27-story tower. This is Cordero Street, and right over here is Georgia Street. This is the Weston Bay Shore Hotel. So we are in the midst of Cole Harbour, a place where you wouldn't normally think of finding social housing. We feature a reading room. Up here is a rooftop garden, and hidden behind the rooftop garden is a 120-seat studio theater on the 8th floor of a building, not someplace you would normally find a theater. Normally they're ground floor, so you can see them. Our rental suite, that's what I just told you. Our rental suite basics are approximately 600 square feet. They're one bedroom. They have in-suite storage, which a lot of residents have turned into little offices. Some of them are now using it for scooter storage because we're starting to age in the building and we're getting more scooters. They all have in-suite laundry. They all have an outside balcony, some with a view of the North Shore Mountains because of our location. We have 14 different suite layouts, and we have shared storage locker areas. Just a few pictures of our building. This is one of our residents in her unit. A lot of our residents are no longer able to work in the performing arts, and they still are very creative people. And a lot of them have turned to visual arts in order to fulfill that creativity. So this is a mural that is on Lorna's wall. This is a bedspread that was made by a resident. Again, just spiffing up whatever room you have in your bedroom. And we have an awful lot of gardeners, thank goodness, because we have a rooftop garden. This is actually a garden in a suite. This is our outdoor garden space on the top of our building. It was designed by a landscape architect, and a lot of it is usable by the residents for food, etc. We have a greenhouse on top of the building, and we also have an awful lot of herb gardens, so you can go up before you make dinner and snip whatever herbs you need. This is the front entrance to our building, and the upper right-hand picture is a Halloween event. We have a daycare center in our building as well, so there's a very nice mix of seniors and little 3- and 4-year-olds that come in and out of the building on a regular basis. The bottom right-hand corner is our reading room. The residents have put the books there. You can come in, you can take them out, you can share. We have a reading club, a book club. There are computers that have access so that if you don't have a computer on your own, you can go there. This is our theater. It is an amenity in the building, so it's there for our residents. Obviously, our residents use it. We have a choir. We have a lot of actors. We have a couple of production companies that are in-house in the building. And then it's also used for community groups as well. So we have an awful lot of dance companies, theater companies, etc., that use it as well. So that brings a large part of the community into the building. In between the garden and the theater, there is a lounge where you can also congregate. If it's raining outside and you don't want to go to the garden, you can come into the lounge. It's also the lobby of the theater. It also is a place where we have a soup social every Monday. And this is where the community really starts to come together. When people were first moving into the building, I'll just tell you a couple of stories about the community. When the residents first moved in, we're part of a 26-story complex that's very secure and everything, and everybody gets their fob. And in the 26-story tower, your fob will take you to your floor. And that's what happened when our residents got to our building. It took them to their floor. We weren't open for 24 hours before we had a mass protest going. But my friend's on the 4th floor, I'm on the 2nd floor, how am I supposed to get there? And the theater's on the 8th floor, and the office is on the 3rd floor. And so we now have total open access. If you've got a fob to the building, you can get anywhere. And that was the residents. Second thing that happened is we had a lot of residents who moved in who literally had a suitcase, and that was all they had. And they were coming in to a 1-bedroom apartment. The community got together, the original owners got together. We got, I think the first sponsor that came on board was Sleep Country. We had a bunch of mattresses delivered, and you could come down to that reading room and you could pick up a mattress and take it to your room. And then we sent the word out to the performing arts community. We needed desks, we needed bookshelves, we needed sofas, we needed whatever. And the donations started to come down. You literally came into the reading room, took what you want, and took it back to your apartment. That was very community building. Then some people noticed that even with our subsidized rents, which I will get to, some people weren't eating well enough. And so a couple in the building said, we're going to have a soup social, and it's going to, make sure that they get at least one really good meal, and hopefully more, because there's always some left at the end, and you bring your Tupperware, and you fill your Tupperware up. But it was also a weekly, let's get people out of their apartment and make sure that they're enjoying the community that was there. We now have upwards of 40 to 45 people who show up every Monday night in the lobby of the theater for a soup social, and it's become way more of a social than really the necessity of the soup. So those are just a few of our stories. Here are a few of the performances. We also have an annual art show. As I said, a lot of our residents have moved into the visual arts, and on an annual basis we have a juried art show. So PAL is really more than a home. It is a place where people from all aspects of the performing arts can continue practicing their craft and sharing their creativity. We're the only live theater venue in the West End, and we are a successful model for affordable housing and caring for seniors capable of independent living. We are independent living. We do not provide assisted living other than the government supports that anybody can have access to. And it's easy when we talk about this intentional community of creative artists to think, well, this is all well and good. Is that me? But I would just like to touch on for a minute the importance of creativity and the arts to healthy seniors in general. We're a living example of it. We've got an entire building filled with it. But there is growing evidence and research around the world of the benefits of actively or passively participating in the arts. So the benefits of being an audience member, if this was a performance happening up here, are substantial. And then the more you get into being actively involved, whether it's acting, dancing, singing, whatever, the benefits grow. And we're seeing longer longevity. We're seeing positive perceptions of one's health. It enables seniors to live independently longer. And it also reduces the costs of prescription drugs, of stay in medical facilities. If you're involved in a care facility, for instance, that has arts involved, your work improves drastically. The Creative Aging Study in the United States did, in 3 different cities, they picked 300 seniors. And they had a control group who got no arts activity, and in each city they had a group that got 1 arts activity per week, just 1. I'm sorry, I'm just too dry. The participation in the 1 activity per week instantly showed all of these benefits, and the benefits maintained for years afterwards. According to the researcher, these community-based cultural programs for older adults appear to be reducing risk factors that drive the need for long-term care. So this is a very affordable way of keeping our health costs down. So that's it. That was my proselytization. I work in the arts. How can you tell? So how did we do it? Well, the first money we got in was from what we call Pass the Hats. And that is, you go to a theater, you have a lovely time, and at the end of the show, one of the actors steps forward, or one of the singers, or whoever steps forward, and tells you about PAL, and asks you to reach into your pockets, and on your way out the door, there'll be actors lining whoever's in the cast with a hat, and you put in loonies and toonies. So literally how PAL started was $30,000 of loonies and toonies and occasional $5 bills. And then we did what Kate shared with you is we sold 12 life leases. And I'm sorry, I know this slide won't be readable at the back. But our life leases, which we call PAL Partners, raised us $3.1 million. And that is what gave us credibility going forward to the city. What I forgot to mention was that the land here, how we got this land, is because it was the social housing component of the Cole Harbour development around the Weston Bayshore Hotel. Numerous groups actually bid to be the operators of this building. The PAL people at the very beginning really went through the process because they wanted to learn how to go through the process so that they'd be ready to run social housing when the next opportunity came up. It was kind of like Bob Rae and the NDP getting into power in Ontario. Nobody expected it. But here we were. We came to the table with $3.1 million, and the city of Vancouver liked what we wanted to do, and so we actually became the proponents for this building. The city of Vancouver came to the table with $1 million, BC Housing came to the table, CMHC, etc. And then the big chunk is we got a $10.5 million mortgage, which we are still paying off. So you can see the big purple piece of the pie is the life leases. If we hadn't had the life leases, this would not have been made possible. So innovation, the life lease is what was really innovative about our project. And I don't have to tell you about a life lease because you just had a whole thing, so I can just skip. I will say that how we do our life lease is we give back 100% of the money. We don't keep a 5% or a 10%. My mother's in a life lease in Calgary, not the Staywell, but 6 blocks away. I think they keep 10% when she moves out. We give it all back, but if we can sell the life lease at a higher rate, that money goes to PAL. So the people who bought life leases believed in PAL, they were part of the performing arts, and they also saw it as a way not to fundraise just at the beginning, but to fundraise later on for PAL as well. Our life lease suites are 2 bedrooms. They're larger. They're approximately 900 square feet. They have a balcony. They also have a fireplace. Our maintenance fees are $500 to $600 a month, and we have a waiting list of 39 people who would like to get a life lease. How does our rental assistance work? Most of our building, this is social housing. This building was built to provide affordable housing. We have 99 one-bedroom rental suites available. 77 suites are rented to qualified applicants at a minimum rent of $475. We can't rent below that or we can't make the building work. And then it moves up based on your income. We average the income over 3 years and we take 33% for rent. Why we average over 3 years is because we have people working in the performing arts is sporadic. You go up and down, you get a job, you don't have a job. And we still have very active seniors in our complex. So if you get a job on a recurring TV show this year, your income's going to go like this, and then next year they cancel the show and your income's going to go back down like that. So we wanted to minimize the spikes, the variances in rent, which is why we average it over 3 years. For those units, we have a waiting list of 197. So we could build 2 more PAL buildings and barely fill the need that we have. Then we have 22 low end of market, so they're not market rents. We sell them, or we rent them at 90%. They're the same units as the rent geared to income units, and for those we have a waiting list of 24. And those we try and rent first to the performing arts. If we can't find someone in the performing arts, we do go outside of the community. So what are our lessons learned? And we're still learning them. I've been president for a year, and boy, are we still learning them. What worked? We started with a very strong community buy-in. We had a model in Toronto. This wasn't a new concept for the performing arts, but when we went out to the community, they loved it. The unions loved it. We're a very union-based industry. The unions understood that we were going to be housing their workers, so they got behind us. We established a clear mission, mandate, and charitable purpose. We built effective partnerships, and again, being able to come to the table with $3.1 million was very helpful with that. We looked at creative funding options. We're creative people, after all. And we worked with a professional social housing person. We were not social housing people. We didn't really understand the full realm. If we hadn't had that advisor, we would have been in deep trouble. And we set strong policies in terms of reference rate from the beginning, so we didn't have all of that potential infighting at the very beginning. Everybody knew exactly how we were going to operate as soon as they moved in. Challenges, we were not co-housing. We weren't at the process of being able to design our building. So we were part of a complex marketing development thing that was happening, so we basically got what the developer gave us. So we're almost 7 years in now. We have appliances that are now starting to need repair or replacement far sooner than we would have otherwise, I think. We were fundraising amateurs who thought a good idea would be enough. It's not. You really have to sell it, and we've had to continue selling it. If you go back to the slide where I said we have 99 suites, almost 80% of them are rent geared to income, and 100% of them are subsidized to a certain extent. Most social housing is based on a 60-40 model. We're on an 80, almost 20 model. The way that we were always going to handle that is we were going to fundraise every year to make up that difference and provide the rental assistance. We're hitting donor fatigue right now, and it's not a sustainable model, which goes to the point 4, which is unrealistic rental mix that we're going to have to deal with. And we have a mortgage that doesn't permit accelerated payment or paying down. So even if we had somebody out there who absolutely loves us and wanted to give us $10 million, we would have a hard time getting out of our mortgage. So I think, do I have 3 minutes to do a video, or have I gone over time? I like to end by you hearing from our residents, because the residents are what make our building. I'm just the president.
My name is Rosie Freer-Dryden. And I guess I've been an actor for as long as I can remember.
I started singing when I was about 5 years old, so I've been singing 60 years.
The idea of putting a female on a rock station was unheard of. In 1978, CKLG hired me for the all-night show, and I was the first woman on major market rock station anywhere west of Chicago.
Spent a lot of time doing CBC radio and television, and in the 70s we had 2 different seasons of our own show called The Judy and Jim Show on national TV.
40 years ago we thought that, support for the arts would grow. It hasn't turned out that way.
My name is Gary Glacken. I'm the Executive Director of the Performing Arts Lodges Vancouver. We work with our residents very closely to ensure that they are able to live and age in place as long as possible.
You go out the front door and you see somebody coming in that you know who lives here, and it's lovely.
The elevator here is the funniest elevator in the world because, most elevators you get into, nobody says anything. Everybody stands and stares at the numbers. Here you can't get people to shut up.
I'm considered what we like to call the PAL pioneers. I was one of the first residents here. Actually, I'd been diagnosed with cancer, and I was just at a point where I was trying to figure out what was next.
It was on the way to being one of those old guys, who reads the newspaper and nurses a cup of coffee for hours. And basically it gets to be kind of a lonely existence.
The opportunities become far fewer as you get older. There really isn't many opportunities to work. My anxiety level, if I can put it like that, has decreased because I know I've got a safe, affordable home to live in.
I was working so hard, just treading water, trying to stay afloat with everything that was going on, that I wasn't singing. We have a theater on the 8th floor. I've been involved in cabaret, had a chance to do some singing, and it's opened up my life again.
I just don't know how I could have survived without PAL.
This is an alive building. It's a living building.
We're all a bit weird because we're actors, and so that's forgiven. It's great being part of PAL and being part of the PAL family. And we are a family.
We don't get any kind of government subsidies here. And yet we've got subsidized rent. 80% of the building is subsidized rent. The fact that this place is here says a whole lot about being Canadian and our respect for the arts. And I like that.
It was a good idea. It was a lovely video, and they talk about how wonderful it is and how much PAL changed their lives, and that's what we're there for, and thank you very much. that sounds like a familiar name.
We had a small group in church, and we had Bible study, and we had a book of James. But anyway, there were two people that have aging parents, and they had to be split up in a different home. And then we said, can't we do anything for old people? I saw that vision. I thought we had to do something for older people, and I could not see why we could not do that. Well, nobody had any money, and to raise the money to do something, that's a different story. We were committed to it, and we went around and to find other people that would support it. But we got, in the beginning, we got about a dozen or so that put $5,000 in. And we said right away, you might lose it, but if it goes through, we might be able to give you a receipt or whatever, right?
I remember one of the meetings, and I had done a little bit of calculation. I was thinking, what's this going to cost, sort of thing. I've calculated the whole thing is going to cost about $36 million. But somebody said, $36 million? Doesn't matter. We don't have the money anyway. Somebody all of a sudden came by and said, I know a guy who has just moved here, and I think he can help us putting a plan together because he's been involved in other places in Ontario, and he's been involved with developing, and that was Martin Van Huysen.
The first entry point for us as an organization was in October of 1993 when Eb Tolster, one of the Bible study committee members, gave me a call because they were kind of looking at doing a project and were somewhat frustrated with their inability to move things forward. They were targeting and buying land, and they didn't even have so much as a corporate entity in terms of how they might go through to purchase land. I basically told them that they needed to think of it like a bridge building from island to island, getting ultimately to the mainland where you want to go.
It's really a model of care, and I think at the time we called it the 3 C's or something, which was community, Christian, and if you combine those first two, you come to care. And from a senior's point of view, that's a model.
I believe it was they were trying to raise $100,000. We did in the end raise $100,000 on the promise that this money would never be returned to the people that put up the money. And then the Elim Foundation achieved charitable status approval in late '94. The amount of hours that were put in by everyone, the amount of faith, even enterprises like Burnaby Lake, who could have gone to the market and probably done better than Elim and had a lot more surety of cash flow. But they understood the benefit of community, and without that kind of win-win understanding and the comprehension of what this community could do, Elim would have struggled.
All along these steps, you could see that people were convinced that this was going to happen. They were willing to be part of it, even when there was hardly any solid stuff that we could say, see, we've got the money backed up over here, so your investment is safe. It was all along a matter of faith.
Everything fell in place. It's amazing, really. And it's a lot bigger than our vision was in the beginning. We never thought that big.
Elim is a wonderful village. It's the fruition of a vision. I think at its core, we achieved all the benchmarks that initial group wanted to achieve. And we're now 20 years down the road. We've achieved all the targets on that initial vision. And I think over the years, the agenda of Elim has been honored. And that's why you see the vision you do.
Perfect. Thank you for being so patient with the technology. That was half of my talk, so I was glad that it ended up working. Thank you for inviting us to speak just a little bit about Elim Village today, and particularly thank you, Gloria, for inviting us here. As you can see, Elim Village has been a project that's been ongoing for a number of years, and when I speak at things like this, I have to admit that I am a small piece of a very big puzzle that's gone on for a long time. And I always want to make sure in these type of contexts that people know there are a lot of people who were participated in this project. And I love watching that video because some of the people that were in there were the original founders of Elim, and they are fantastic people to know. So just to give you a bit of an idea about Elim Village, as was mentioned in the video there, Elim Village was founded in the early 1990s. There was a Bible study group that got together. And in the old health authority, they had parents, one of the members of the Bible study had parents that were separated at the end of their life for varying care needs. And they just thought, this is just unbelievable. These people have been 70 years together. In the last years of their life, they have to be separated. And you could hear Mr. Storterboom talk about, we had to do something for older people. And so they believed that required a bit of action on their part. There was a staged purchase of land in the Fleetwood area of Surrey. And really the development of Elim Village, while it started in the early 90s, 2001 was when the building process started taking place. And it's been pretty much a decade of development from 2001 to 2011 that got us to the point we are today. But today, Elim Village is a 25-acre property located in the Fleetwood area of Surrey. We're on 20 acres right now. We've also purchased land beside us of about 5 acres. And just over half of that is developed right now. It's home to just under 600 residents and the place of employment for just over 200 members of staff. So Elim Village really is a campus of care, and the intention when it started was to provide a variety of housing options for seniors so that they were able to remain in community and didn't have to leave again. And so with the independent living, we do have 250 independent units on our property, and all of them are Life-lease. And I'm really glad that Life-lease was explained. For those of you who are out there who didn't understand it in 30 seconds, just as a word of encouragement to you, I've been working for 7 years in this area. I still don't understand it, and I was so scared I'd get asked questions today. I brought our director of finance and our manager of marketing just to make sure that our manager of marketing is a really quick texter, so I can keep my phone here and go, yes, the Life-lease. No, but anyway, they're the experts in this. But the idea in the independent living, again, is to have a strong community. We have a residence council there that works directly with us, a very strong residence council that gives us advice. We have a health and wellness initiatives that we have there. We also, over the last year, have started providing care services, and where we had a lot of people move into Elim originally believing that they needed no help. As with all of us, they age, and so we've found that the need for care services has increased. And you'll see how we can provide that in a second. We do have security on property. It's a large property. So it creates a good sense of, again, community, but also safety and security there as well. We also have an assisted living building, and our assisted living building is 109 units. We have 1 and 2 bedroom suites. We, in the assisted living, we've also partnered with BC Housing and Fraser Health. So we have 56 units that we hold privately, but we also have 53 units that are funded both together by BC Housing, and the care is funded by Fraser Health. In there, as many of you know, it's assisted living, 24-hour supervision within the building, nurse call system, recreation programming. Lunch and dinner is provided in this. And we also have a small hair care tuck shop within that building as well for the residents. And finally, the last piece, and we call this one kind of it completed the backbone of care and kind of completed that original vision as was referred to, because it allowed us now to retain people on the property without having to move them off. Now, of course, that said, if there's certain levels of acuity that we can't handle, where a hospital is going to have to deal with that, or in some cases there are some issues surrounding dementia that would require specialized care that we don't handle. But other than that, we're able to retain people on our property. And our residential care right now is called the Harrison. It's a very good building. It's a full concrete, non-combustible building, a geothermal building. It's licensed and fully accredited. And it's built on what's called a neighborhood model, which if you haven't seen, it's almost worth the trip just to come and see that. It's small 16 and 14 bed neighborhoods, very residential-like. I love doing tours in there because I don't have a lot of experience in this industry, but I did have experience with my grandparents, and I can assure you that my grandma did not live in housing like the people are at the Harrison right now. A lot of good things have happened, and there we also work with the Fraser Health Authority. So we have 118 beds. 80 of them are with the Health Authority. As many of you know, residential care, complex care on the private side is quite cost prohibitive. We also run into some issues with respect to Canadians and their mindset with respect to care. And so it's not simply an easy private sell, but we've been very fortunate that our private pay has been fully subscribed since we opened in 2009. So just to give you an idea quickly of our housing mix, this is kind of the total of Elim Village right now. We have 250 independent units. We have 109 assisted living units and 118 complex care. And you can see up there the mix that we have between the funded and the private. We're also currently in the process of constructing a 75-bed addition to the Harrison complex care building. So we'll have a total of 193 complex care beds on our property by 2016. So I was asked just to give a few of the observations, and again, I'm not making statements around these. Many of you in this room are probably far greater experts than I in these areas, but these are some of the things we've noticed in dealing with the community that we interact with. One is that 75 seems to be this age when there's a bit of a priority shift. When we talk to people slightly before this age, they're never going to move in, and people who move in around this age are really glad they did. I don't know. It's up to researchers to determine whether that's a good number or whether it's not. But we really see a priority shift, and the ones that we see are the way money is seen by individuals who are in that age group, and also the way safety and security and health is seen. Those are two shifts that we've seen, but they change the priority, and we've found as well as Kate mentioned earlier that the Life-lease has become a very valuable tool in that. And while your younger demographics may not understand it because they want money to appreciate and they want to gain interest on it, etc., the group we're dealing with isn't quite as worried about that. There are other things that are higher priorities for them. Second thing we've found is that transitions are a key. And people that we work with have been so thankful that we have the ability to move first and ask questions later. And that has been a huge thing with the community. And as our scale and size increases, we've been able to put in mechanisms that allow that to occur. And we have a foundation that works with us. We also have what's called a legacy fund that ensures that residents within our village don't have to leave the village unless it's for specific care needs. And we're able to move them first and then ask questions later and work out the financial side. But transitions has been a big thing. Home is best. This is a question that we would ask, and I know there's a lot, and it was almost a little bit refreshing to hear some of the thoughts on this earlier today with respect to the home being best. And we found that in some cases their home or in their community may be best, but home may also not be best. And I think we found that it's very important, and why conferences like this are so fantastic is to find out what is available. And so people have the right to choose and to find the fit that's good for them. And we have found people being very appreciative of what the community as a whole has to offer. Who pays? This is the other one we run into a lot. It's a very, if you contrast the U.S. mindset and the Canadian mindset, who pays is the government, and they align us with the government right away. And especially when it's care, and we've heard stories of people driving their parents up and saying, okay, we're leaving them with you, we'll call you, and we're trying to figure that out. But we do take them in, don't worry, we'll make sure they're okay. But it's very different mindset, and we've found we've had to do a lot of education within our community. We have worked very hard to retain a private pay component to what we do, because that does allow us the control within the system. But then with our relationships with the health authority, we've been able to advocate for our residents and to have, again, the transitions within care or within private and funded as well. The power of the community is the one that I want to end on. And I, again, it's so great to be hearing stories from other communities as well, and just the power that community has. And I think in my observation, sometimes we have there's kind of two attitudes that things are approached with. One is the attitude of scarcity, where we have a piece of pie and we're all going to stand around that piece of pie and we're going to kick, scream, and yell until we get our piece of the pie. And there's an attitude of abundance, and the attitude of abundance says we're going to bring everything that we have to the table and we're all going to work together to try to create something great. And I think that's been true of the story of Elim Village and where we're going. And I don't know if any of you have seen this, but just a healthy cycle of community and empowerment. And this really has been the story of Elim Village, in that the community members started the project by identifying their assets. There were a group of them that brought $25,000 to the table, never knowing if they'd get it back. The community only allowed couples to bring $50,000, so nobody had controlling interest in it, but it was a community effort from the beginning. And then members started connecting their assets with other assets to take the project the next step further. We were fortunate that the greenhouses that Elim is built on, they were members of the community, and they allowed for a staged development of the project. Resource leveraging was the development of opportunities and partnerships with outside resources, and we've had a ton. We have a ton of partnerships, whether they're with the health authorities, BC Housing, developers, construction people, all the way around. And then those obviously lead to new opportunities. And as we've gone on, we've been able to create a bit of a backbone of the care, or the campus of care. And now what we're trying to do is work on the sections that are in between the cracks. How do you deal with people don't just transition from one thing to the next. It's very gray. And so how do we provide support within the home until somebody's ready for assisted living? How do we produce an effect between assisted living and residential care that makes the resident feel valued and that their care needs are being taken care of? We are also now in the process of looking at diversity in terms of housing options, and one of the things that's most conscious on our community's mind is how do we deal with the issue of affordability. When you start projects like this, as we talked about, Life-lease requires equity, and projects this size require equity. But as a not-for-profit society now, we're able to reinvest some of the things that we've done well in terms of our business practice and bring them back to the community. And we're starting to purchase units through the community, through estate planning and wills that we're then I wouldn't say releasing, we're renting out to people to create an affordable housing section to the project as well. I think the thing I'd like to conclude on is one of the challenges I think that we have, that we're constantly balancing, is trying to harness and maintain the power of community, which is very, very powerful, with the benefits that some of the institutional things in our society provide. And it's, I've found in my experience that it's tough to get it one way or the other, and you have to work together. And so a lot of our time is spent with health authorities and things like that, trying to combine to create the best possible quality of life for the residents that live at Elim Village. Thank you.
Before I start, something Karen said this morning when she was up here about her mom being poster child for what she had gone through. I have a similar story, but actually mine's a little more fun, I think. Is before anything else, I'd point out my mother, the poster child. So the poster child for Amenida, way back when we were getting started and I had no residence and I had to have something to put in the newspaper. Mom. She was mortified though, because at the time she didn't actually use a walker. So, welcome to Amenida Seniors Community. I'm going to take you a little further along the spectrum at this point, hearing all sorts of great things this morning about Cohousing and Life-lease and wonderful. At this point, except it sounds like there's a few developments maybe heading to that assisted living, we're not really there yet. So I'm a little further along the line. Traditional housing is typically followed either, you'll find a multicultural model or ethnocentric. Throughout our history, you can look through just on the Lower Mainland, Dania House Finnish, German homes, Success, Nikkei. There's been all sorts of single culture or just completely mixed group cultures. Amenida is different in that we are not one or the other, we're both. So I have half of the building, half of the business is dedicated as seniors housing for Koreans, a very reasonably new population to the Lower Mainland. So there are really a lot of people who are very unfamiliar still with Canadians and what it's like and what our background is. And then the other half of the business, half of the building is completely dedicated in terms of multicultural. So whoever darkens our door, if you're suitable for assisted living, independent housing, you're welcome to come on board. A thought that came to mind actually when I was thinking, and Laura, you kind of alluded as well, I almost feel like I'd rather call us co-housing in a way. A lot of those principles, and when speaking of maybe an adaptation of some of those principles, I think we've unintentionally got those on board with our project. Briefly, in terms of our past, we did open as Newton Regency in 1989, so over 20 years ago, but in 2010, we were reborn as Amenida. Sorry. My notes are a little askew at this point. I've had so many ideas and thoughts that have come to me as everyone's been talking. I've got scattered notes all over. So we are 131 suites, independent with a small amount of registered assisted living. As I've mentioned, mixed multicultural. And a key factor as well was trying to be affordable. So keeping the rates as low as possible. For the most part, hundreds to even thousands of dollars less than in our area. I'll give you a brief look at the building. The building itself, I would probably say, is one of our biggest challenges. Of that age, it's not the pretty penny. I look at places like Elim and I just go, oh, it's so nice. It's so pretty. But what we are is homey, absolutely. We are not home-like, we are homey. And I guess I'll stand on my soapbox for a moment, but nothing makes me tear my hair out more than this home is best. If you ask my residents, they are at home. This is home. It's not. So I think we need to change our definition a little bit as to what do we mean when we say home is best and bringing services to people. But I'll get off my soapbox again, sorry. The building itself, though, physically kind of lends itself nicely to first and second floor of actual suites. On the one half of the building, we've dedicated to Korean residents. Those are specifically their units. We've had, for one reason or another, the odd person on either the multicultural or Korean side that have wanted the other. But typically it works very well. Korean population being much more of a communal, community type group to begin with the seniors. They want to be able to just kind of come out of their doors, they sit, they visit with each other, whereas in the sort of mixed population, it's not as comfortable a thing for them. The other challenge with the building, like I said, it's not the new shiny penny, and our suites, I heard sort of chuckles and gasps this morning when I believe it was micro unit, it was called, was mentioned, and the size of that. My typical suite is just under 300 square feet, but you'd be amazed at what people can do with a little proper planning and great storage. I think we're one of IKEA's leading solutions for our customers. Other challenges. Communication is probably going to be the most obvious challenge. In case anyone's noticed, I am not Korean. And I don't speak Korean other than I could greet everyone with annyeonghaseyo, which if there's anyone Korean speaking out there right now, I hope I didn't butcher it too badly, and I apologize. We have a lot of staff that we have hired that are bilingual, but they're not always present when someone presents himself in front of you with a question or a need of sorts. So we have other processes we put in place. As I like to say, we are all experts at playing charades. What that sounds like, feels like, here, where, what are we talking? So we use a lot of body gestures, facial expressions. We have, in hard copy, cue cards that we're using extensively. One of the latest that we realized and developed came to us at 3 a.m. when the fire bells were going off, and my poor night staff could not explain to the Korean residents it was just a false alarm. So we even have, they can walk around now at night and go, false alarm, false alarm. And as I always say, smiles are universal, and we hug a lot. People understand that. And meals. Meals were another challenge. Initially, we did we shared the dining room together, everyone ate together. As we were growing, that became a little more difficult. We had to eventually go to 2 seatings, which I'll have to tell you a funny story. This is where I started to know that we were coming together as a group, where there wasn't that feeling. I've always feared the feeling of us and them in the building and between the residents. So we decided we've just grown to the point now we knew that eventually it would have to happen. The dining room would only hold so many people, and that's not everybody at once. So operationally, it made things much simpler, much easier if we just said, okay, we'll split to the 2 seatings. One will be Korean menu, one will be non-Korean menu. My anticipated objections, I was expecting, I don't want to eat that early. I don't want to eat that late. I want to eat at 5. How come I have to go to 4:30, 5:30? No. One of the very only people that complained to me, and I had one gentleman, he'd shown up at the front desk, and I could hear him from my office, I need to talk to Teena. Oh, Lordy. Okay. Yes, Ken? I heard about this meal thing. Yes. Why are you segregating the Koreans? Ken, I'm not. Well, how come they don't get to eat at the same time as we do? Okay. It's just operationally, I've got one servery, can't have everybody at the same time. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I should have known better. And off he went. So, little aside, but yeah, I think it's a good example of how the residents are coming together. There is not that us and them. Kitchen and staffing was a bit of a challenge. What I like to say, and when I talk to the staff now, is how they've really come together to dance well. They started out with kind of bumping into each other. We have Korean cooks, we have the non-Korean cooks, and they were kind of bumping into each other in a stage, and where is my stuff going to go? Where is that stuff going to be? Fortunately, it's grown at a nice pace. They've developed this dance together. Staffing was a bit of a challenge as well when I was looking for bilingual staff. Interesting challenges, not a large population of both Korean and English speakers or ones that would be good enough. I've had to adapt in certain roles. Obviously, someone at the front desk or answering the phone needed to have the absolute best English possible. My cooks have skills, but not as good. And every time we've come around, experience-wise, we're finding better and better quality of candidates. So it's nice to see that our reputation is getting out, the word is spreading as well. Different ideas from people. I think the psyche of the employee and the staff having to learn from my perspective, and I'm used to dealing more so with a multicultural base, that they'll ask questions, they'll tell me if they're confused or don't understand, but there's a lot of sort of saving face, that they can't tell me if they don't understand what I'm asking or how to do something. They'll just walk away and do it wrong, or just completely... I feel sometimes like they're just ignoring, but I know they're not ignoring. So I'll call them back and say, but how did you know I didn't understand? I said, well, because I didn't expect you to understand or know this. There's a lot of saving face that they feel they should know. I'm like, you've been here a week. I don't expect that you know this. So those have been some of the challenges with staffing for new hires and new people. Pre-existing staff, I have I have at least a half a dozen people right now working for me that have been there over 20 years. They've been there. with the new model coming in, there was a lot of uncertainty, mistrust. It was new owners, new business model, new everything. The fear of we're being replaced, we will be replaced. That really has just been a matter of time and gradual. You can't have somebody trust you or believe in you just because you say, trust me, believe me, it's here. Other challenges, there have been some challenges in trying to provide that dual cultural model. And not necessarily where I anticipated to begin with. It's been quite easy introducing, what are the different things, but to each group, there's been a lot of focus all the time on teaching and explaining, and what is this, and why do we do that, and what is the real meaning. The one example, and I use Halloween here as a prime example, where we, for the most part, I think the general population looks at it as a chance to have fun, and it's silly, and it's costumes, and it's games. Culturally, the impression, the understanding with the Korean residents was it's devil worship, and it's all of these very evil and bad things, and that's what's going on. So trying to educate and have them involved in, no, it's just good, silly fun, right? And games. We've done this 4 years now. So we've gone from people watching really from afar, but kind of going, okay, I'm curious, to the odd person participating a little bit, to this past year, where we had the residents, they were now excited enough, they joined in doing the Monster Mash. So I thought we would skip that video today, but it's quite fun. And wearing costumes and doing jack-o'-lanterns. So it's been that slow education of what do these crazy Canadians do. Sorry, I'll skip ahead a little. It's also led to the trying of new things, and I think this is one part of why it's been successful and popular, is it's encouraging the sharing of different experiences and having fun, and yet you can still safely go back to, this is what I know, there's my food, there's my language, there's the rest of my traditions, but I can go over. I think back to attachment theory and the securely attached child who will go and explore, and they're okay because they know it's mom's back there and they can come back to it. So now, and it goes both ways, both sides. Mardi Gras, this year parade, but in the top left corner, the two residents on the right, the Korean couple, very well known in the local community, pastor and his wife. He's also a writer of renown. And the stone that they're standing beside is a stone in Bear Creek Park that has the engraving of a poem that he had written and has been translated and placed there. Poetry stones, apparently a very important part of Korean culture. And my understanding is there are many in Korea if you actually visit there. So one of the outings was for residents to come and see this stone. And a lot of, whether residents were Korean or non-Korean, they were all very interested to see what Pastor Van had written. And then there's the things that are shared. Shared holidays or festivals, but just done a little differently. So we celebrate Thanksgiving. The Koreans have Chuseok, which is basically a harvest festival as well. The ladies were writing what they feel thankful for. So they did Thanksgiving thank you cards and gingerbread houses added to Korean traditions of Christmas. And as well, on the bottom, you'll see they have Parents' Day. So instead of having Mother's Day and Father's Day, separate days, separate months, they celebrate Parents' Day. And of course, what everyone has in common, and Laurie, I really thought about this slide when you were talking about the importance of music. I don't have the statistical backgrounds or the hardcore research, but I can promise you, everyone comes together over music. And we turn down really no opportunity to have it happening. Other challenges as far as marketing, if you want to look at the business side, really the two markets vastly different. Being a small community group brought together, the Koreans, it's a lot more of a micro marketing, a lot of one-on-one, a lot more going out to their events and spreading word of mouth and referral. Whereas the macro campaign to the multicultural market, it's more the traditional based into newspapers, magazines, online. Interesting, I've wanted to and tried to introduce the Faces of Amenida, which is a very popular, very successful campaign for us in our local newspaper. Try to introduce that to the Korean market. Absolutely no. Nobody would participate. But you like it here, you're happy? Yes. Will you? No. Why? It was finally explained to me there, and this has been one of the big challenges, is still very much culturally it's expected that your elders stay with you, right? Or that you're looking after them, they're living with you. To have your mom or dad come and live somewhere else other than with you, that's a fail, and you're a bad family. So even though we've had really every side of the coin, mom and dad that had to convince the kids, I want to go there. I don't want to live in the basement. No, you can't. To the kids that are saying, Mom, it's not right. You're not, we're not with you and we're afraid for you. And it's fun. They're having fun. It's really gone both, but still culturally enough to want to be a part of the Faces campaign and actually put your face in the newspaper to say you're happy. Within the community, it's still considered it's going to be very shameful for my family. Yes, I'm happy here. Yes, I'm glad I'm living here, but they will look bad if I go out there and say. Is it working? I think so. I think we're building a really good community. The growth, we started with about 4 or 5 residents that were a holdout, that were still physically, cognitively capable. They were in care at Newton Regency, that moved with us to ILAL, to just over 100 this last summer. So, resident and family feedback. Sorry, I'm trying to hurry. Yep. I've always been told I talk too much. Feedback from families. 3 years running since they first started the category in the Surrey Leader, when they say favorite seniors housing for Surrey, we have been the front-running leader of gold. And then there's what I call my moments of truth. Things that have happened, like I said, here's my Caucasian resident standing up for why am I segregating the Korean residents in the dining room. To the moment, and this was another one of those firsts where I just thought, okay, here's a good story. What is it? I gotta know. In walks in the front door one of my Caucasian residents, older fellow named Ron, with one of my little Korean ladies, and she's leading him by the hand. And I thought, I know there's a story here. What's going on? Well, Ron had decided he was going to go to the bank, so he jumped on the bus, went up to the mall in the corner, became confused because he was new to the area and wasn't sure, how do I get back and what's going on? One of the other residents, one of the Korean ladies, who happened to be shopping there at the same time, recognized him. She couldn't talk to him. He couldn't talk to her, but enough that they recognized each other, realized he does need help, so she brought him back, and in they came. So community and looking after each other, those are those moments. And the next magic moment is really best told in pictures. So we had a group of children that were here doing performances. This lady in the bottom right corner, I've never seen her smiling and so happy, ever, as in this picture. Very often, very sad. Watching those children, she became, from laughter, became so emotional, she started crying and literally weeping in her chair, thinking back, obvious memories being brought back for her. And then I looked over, and there was Eddie that just reached over, who's been sitting beside her and held her hand. Right? You don't need language to have empathy or to care about your neighbor. Right? And as well, here's my own, what do we say, supergenarian? No, supergenarian, octogenarian, supercentenarian, 5 times fast. I have actually 4 residents that are 100 or 100 plus. Mr. Lee, when he had his 103rd birthday last year, the residents, the Korean residents, I have a lot of, coincidentally, people who come from musical backgrounds. So they had said, we'd like to have a choir, we'd like to sing for him. When they heard about that, the other residents, the non-Korean residents, said, well, we want to sing for him at the party too, and started practicing diligently. Why is it working? I'd like to look back, just Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all have, no matter what our culture and our background, how we express those needs are going to be similar. Foods, shelter, safety, you want to feel that your health and well-being is cared for, you've got someone there, you've got neighbors, and they will all admit committed the caring of the staff around them. Love and belonging, I think we're truly creating that between the residents. Self-esteem and actualization, and I was thinking about this when you say, how are we going to build that community? I think this is where community happens. They've got those other things under and around them, and now they're venturing out to do other things. The bottom left corner, the residents wanted to become involved in the neighborhood garbage pickup thing, where you're responsible for your neighborhood. The top right is fundraising for Terry Fox in the fall. And bottom right-hand corner, we've 4 years now, we've had shred-a-thons to raise money for a variety club, and the residents help put it together. They bring their own shredding as well. If you could bear with me, I have 2 testimonials. They're about a minute each. Or am I done? Okay, done. Anyone's? I have them. They'll be on the website too. Critical thing is they talk about home and how important it is to them. And really it doesn't matter that they're mixed cultures or not. It's done.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll play a video for you. Actually, that's a fun video when you're having coffee, because it's just some background fun to look at. What's the name mean? Amenida.
Good question.
Other than it being mispronounced all the time, it's probably the most common question I get. It was a derivation, kind of a mishmash together of a Spanish word, amenidad, meaning along the lines of pleasantness and happiness, plus combined with the Korean. The owner is Korean. Amen, and Ida. It's had a very familiar sound to when they give praise to God. So Amenida. So combination.
We have time for one more question before the break.
Actually, I'll start with a comment. I think you mentioned that in the Korean culture, people tend to say that they got to stay with their children. I think maybe that is maybe true, generally speaking, but it's changing all the time. Certainly changing in the South Asian community. If you remember, you look at the assisted living, which is being managed by PICS in Surrey, you will see that a lot of East Indians are there. Now, the question I wanted to ask you is this. Knowing that it's only the Korean community you're dealing with, knowing how many multicultural groups we have, do you think there's a future for this, or do you think we are going on a unicultural model, which to me doesn't seem to be very satisfactory? We get all type of foods, ethnic food in the market, and we all go in the restaurants. So I do not see why we can have a multicultural model with the menu constantly changing. I know it's probably more difficult for the kitchen staff, but with the innovations, you could develop that model. I would hate to go for a single culture model when I got to go into a residential home.
I think there's several pieces in there. I do think that over time, like successive generations will be more open to wider varieties of food, particularly. But it goes beyond just the food. It's the shared language, it's the shared traditions and cultural pieces of what they are used to doing as kids. When you ask how many cultures we have the Korean specializing on the other side, and then I would say how many cultures are in this room right now. Mm-hmm. It's completely open. I have living with us right now, just off the top of my head, I know I have some Filipinos, I have a couple of Japanese people, German, Dutch. There's people from a wide variety. A great couple little British grannies. They're a couple of my centenarians. I love them dearly. So it really is very mixed. The generation that's out there right now, when I look at food-wise especially, is very important, and they don't really like to experiment. What a lot of them I say Western, although I really hesitate to do that, because the first time we said we were going to play a Western movie, everyone expected cowboys. So the non-Korean side of the building, our North American menu is such a mix of, if we eat spaghetti tonight and we'll have something, anything. Suddenly I don't know what I'm having for dinner tonight. What have I eaten? But if you look really at what we eat, it is such a blend of many cultures as it is. Fajitas, vegetarian, absolutely. Yeah, we accommodate that as well. So and I find that the one item that always comes up on the non-Korean side, how can we eat so much rice? You have it twice a week, but no, meat and potatoes.
So thank you very much to our presenters. And I want to compliment in particular Teena and Ron. I believe this is your first leadership roles, and to hear that you've gone from 4 residents at your site to 100, and knowing the stress on that site, and Ron seeing the leadership that you brought to Elim, and it's regarded as one of the top campus of care anywhere from what we've seen, and also to PAL and for your leadership. Laurie, and my connection with PAL was my dad was on the board of directors, so I know a lot about PAL and know that from a governance point of view how important your leadership has been there. So, and wonderful presentation. So, round of applause, please, for the presenters.